Hello and welcome each and every one of you to another episode of Soul Vibes. My name is Alexis Sersha and I welcome you to this time where we come together to talk about, to talk about and mainly feel all things to do with our soul. All things to do with the relationship with our soul as a human, and all things to do also with bringing that presence, that awareness of the soul, the reality of it, its feeling, its spark into the daily life, and all of the things that happen that have to do with that within the current energy. So, as we are those that are watching, live, it is 2025 January. So, I also want to wish each and every one of you a most wonderful new year. Happy New Year. I hope you had wonderful, Christmas celebrations. I hope you had wonderful New Year celebrations with your family, with your friends, with yourself as a company, however that you chose to do. The main thing is that you felt good within yourself, even perhaps if some things were quite, intense. The energies have been intense in the last couple of days, or yesterday, I believe. There were two X-class solar flares again, so many people I can feel with those things, all these intense energies pushing things, pushing from inside, to those things that are not flowing. Some people feel headaches. Some people have electronic issues. But those people that photograph auroras all around the world, they're awaiting for their, the magnetic field to show, the magnetic field to interact with the flares, with all of the ionization and all of the particles that the sun keeps sending towards our way. And all of these energies really, this is the universe, our earth, our solar system, the universe supporting us, supporting all of the transitions that we're experiencing. And as earth, as humanity, as all creatures on this earth, and also as each one of us, the individuals that we are, wherever we are on this sub journey, that it's a quite an interesting experience in all different ways that we've never imagined even, or thought of, or could think of, or came up with, because reality always can be quite a bit different to what the expectation is, especially of the mind. And so I would like to welcome you into this space, and let's come back into ourselves. Let's come into the presence of our own self in the circle, in this around this at this table that is round, where we meet, where we co-create the energies to come and flow through us, the safety that is needed for integration, for transformation, and of all of the things that want to be transformed, that want to be let go of. And this is also an ongoing process, learning to transform, learning to alchemize. That used to be the big word, alchemize, but, transform, transmute, transcend. There are a lot of different words. And, if you're interested, you can have a look at them at the dictionary or Google them up and see the differences, and how they feel different. That experience of what you can relate that word to, how it feels different from one process to the other that we're experiencing. For being the creator, there are certain tools, certain abilities, certain practices. They are actually an everyday occurrence, and transformation is one of those things, because we're always evolving, in a sense, not becoming better version of ourselves, but as soul is, as the presence is so dynamic, it always wants to experience new things. It wants to dive into itself in a new way. It wants to fall in love with itself in a new way, always. So it's very dynamic. It's very active in this way, and it actually demands of each one of ourselves demands of the human 100%. It wants 100% commitment, 100% And this is very far from perfection. It's not what the mind knows, or people in general think of perfection. Perfectionism in that way is a trap. It's a blockage. It's something that is stopping you from flowing into yourself. It's something that stops you dead in your track. It's something that actually makes a wall inside. It freezes you from the inside. But there is also 100% demand from your soul, from that part of yourself, to be yourself, to experience, to love, to participate in this co-creation, to participate in life. Even though, for example, as a human, you're sleeping, you're having a nap, or having a really relaxing time, or falling inside of yourself, all these other parts of you are incredibly active, and this too is reflected, by the life that is around us. If you are in within, if you find yourself in a living world, like a forest or something like that, you find that it never really sleeps. There is always action there. Life is always living through itself, in and out of itself. Even in the deepest winter times, which a lot of the, northern hemisphere, a lot of the places are experiencing winter. And yet, even in winter, if you look at what is happening, because perhaps we look at one thing as a whole thing, and we look at a tree and there's just a skeleton of it, unless it's a spruce tree, but because no, the deciduous trees have dropped all the leaves and things like that, and you think, wow, it's just still, because you feel that stillness. And yet that is not the only life. That's just one image of life within that tree. There are billions of cells that are, quite active, pumping tons of water, tons of all the living juices and things like that through the tree. And so everything is always active. And so I would like to invite you to really come into yourself in this way and feel this inside of you. But there comes a time in each one of our, journeys, perhaps to take that time away from everything, and everything human, everything busy in the old way, and just spend time on our own exploring, especially, having the trips and spending time in nature. So a lot of people feel drawn to that, and feel, a lot of people leave everything. They go in a camper van and they go and just explore a different sort of scenery. Not only the scenery, but it has to do with just coming to know yourself in a different way. And all of this has to do with, you as a human, and the soul, this presence, the connection. After that time of separation, it takes years and years for you to get to connect with yourself, to get to know yourself, to get to know how to communicate, to get to know how to listen to that still voice, and yet a dynamic voice, to get to used to these kind of different kind of energies, to get used to being naked in front, as a human, being naked and vulnerable in front of this presence, in front of your soul, to also get used to all these new levels of being able to enjoy life, to have satisfactory, to have experiences of satisfaction, of joy, of love, to have perhaps first time some experiences of what it means, the unconditional. But when you travel with this presence with your soul, you get to know these words, the feeling, the experience of what these words represent in a very, very different way, because all of it purifies all of these things that you thought you knew as a human. they purify, they cleanse, they come back to their essence. And so you start to experience what it actually means to feel joyful, what it actually means to feel free, what it actually means to be so deeply relaxed into who you really are. For you find that this partner, which for initially or for a lot of years, feels like another you. So for me, the experience was for many years that there was the human self and then there was the soul self, and they were two parts, because this is what the journey was, is bringing these two together from the separation, allowing them rather to come back together. And I said, and as I mentioned, there are many different ways to, how this path leads each one of us. So some go on a journey, some go around the world, some stay at the same place. It's really, the details are not important in this way. However, that whatever works with you, even though, I found it very, very helpful to spend time in nature, and this seems to be that natural byproduct of this kind of thing of our journey, because nature is so reflecting of these true realities. It is so truthful, raw, and itself in every moment. It is absolutely present in the moment. And so there are so many things that one can learn from the creatures that live in nature, and whether, these creatures also, the wild creatures also live within the cities, within towns. But most often within our busyness as a human that is unawakened or unconscious, we don't notice them, and we often look down upon them. That's what happened. For me, I had to really re-look at everything, and I realized that so much of what I've been taught about other creatures, or all of these, the world, how things work, were actually a lie or misinformation or whatever, however one terms this, but it wasn't true. And so I had to kind of go with my own, with, developing and building this trust between me and me, and believe the newfound insights and experiences, and what I actually saw with my own eyes, what I heard, to be the truth, rather than what I was taught to believe was true. And so I wanted to, this is what came to me today to speak about, really, because it's been quite a huge part of the last couple of months. It is this finalization almost of the reliance on the authority of others, to for shifting that focus into relying on your own truth, on your own feelings, on your own experiences. And, after the work that we've been doing, because, if let's say, if you've lived as a false self, which very often, to survive, especially, people like us who have been born different. We've been born, we birthed ourselves with this kind of goal or mission, to come back to ourselves despite anything in this life. So we were quite different, even if, let's say, we had good family. For many of us, we had very traumatic family upbringing and all sorts of things like that. And so to survive in a world that is in some ways was so different, we created in many ways this false self. And so this false self is what represented us as ourselves. And then this process, this coming back to the real self, it's a huge journey, but it means letting go of all of these ideas of who we were, because that false self was based on trying to be what society expected, trying to be what family expected, playing that role, so it contains all of those voices, and it contains also a lot of misinformation and blatant lies, so that we could fit in with that, with the situation. And so, but we identified with it so strongly in many ways that, like shedding that feels like a snake sheds its skin. And it's not pleasant when that old skin is let going, when we're letting it go, when it's transforming to fall off. And there's nothing pleasant about it. And then when it does fall off, you can feel vulnerable, you can feel very touchy, and you feel like staying in your own cave, in your own safe space, until your new skin, your new identity, your new self can become a little bit more, hardened, not hardened in the old way, but kind of like just having that natural protective layer, like the tree bark of the tree also has. It's natural to sort of have that, but it takes a bit of time, before it actually forms in this way. And so let's let's feel this part that is new. And this is such a big theme from the 24 to 25, where we're solidifying this new of who you found, to your surprise, to your delight, to your pleasure, that is you. Because this part feels so deliciously simple, in a way, as in simplicity, in a way that's so natural, in a way so untamable, because can't be tamed. It is this new you who is exuberant, who is in love with life, who is in love with yourself, who feels self-love, who trusts your own self, who trusts your own processes, who trusts your own soul, your presence, because you have worked so hard and so diligently to build that, to develop that trust. You've let go of so many warring parts, you've resolved things. And even though they may not be, this 100% resolution, you may be at 50, 60, 70, 80%. But once you are, this is just a figure of speech, once you are a certain percentage healed, then everything changes. One day you wake up and you realize, wow, I haven't felt those bouts of depression and self-doubt, and for such a long time they've become strangers to me, those kind of experiences, those feelings, those identifications, thinking that this is who you were, or for some people, maybe minimizing yourself to make so that you were not a threat to others, so that you could survive. For some people, it's putting others in a hierarchy, on a pedestal. To all of this was that strategy that helped you to survive in the past. And yet there are these vestiges of all of these things still present. And this transition between the 24 and 25 is asking of us to step into this full trust. And so I invite you, as I'm speaking, to feel this. How does it feel when you are 100% trusting yourself, trusting that you are right, trusting that you are wonderful, trusting that your soul loves you, that you are precious, and not for these to just be words. This is the time to let go of those vestiges, which sometimes, it is vestiges that say that you are not all this, that you should feel worthless, that you're not good enough, that you are not capable, or that you are not that you don't deserve to feel this. Or this is for some people, that those masters of the old, or some gurus in India, or whatever the words are saying, or that is just something that was wishful thinking, that you didn't think that it would be possible to feel like this, that it would be possible to feel at such peace with yourself, that it would be possible to feel this in a world where none of this is allowed to be felt. All of the structures of society for people that, if you, in your family, in your, and for many of us, we've spent more time with family, whether, in person or on Skype and all sorts of things. And we realized perhaps how different we now are. And we also realized just how difficult it must have been for that child who you were to stand in your own truth. For other people, perhaps you are with a partner, or perhaps it could be, in at workplace, if you have a job, or any situation like that. How things are made up, or if you just listen to YouTube, or anything within the human race, within the human species, things are made out of hierarchies. Everything is structured in that way, that some people are supposed to, you're supposed to give credence to others and lift them up and minimize yourself in relationship with them. If you have bosses, if you have all these kind of things, there are all these kind of energetic pulls. And so within those kind of spaces, there is this continual minimizing of yourself, or continually putting yourself down, putting you down, and then therefore you sometimes take that on and put yourself down. That's why it feels so free when you go into nature, because nothing like that happens there. There are no energies of that, even though some creatures, they organize themselves in a different way, in all sorts of different ways. But there isn't this imposition, or you can just be yourself and enjoy being yourself, and you are accepted as you are. There are no judgments or labels given to you to hold or carry, and then you can also let them go. And so these times are pretty much now like that, to ask you to claim these things, to be these things, to own them uncompromisingly, and to let all those other vestiges just go. Be in the last year and in the years before. Let those things reside and stay there if it wants, or clear, or go into neutral. But in the society where we are, it's an act of rebellion to be yourself, and it triggers other people who are not. And some people it inspires, and some people it triggers jealousy, and triggers all sorts of these kind of emotions and feelings. And you can feel those things, when you are present, when you are present. But now new levels of just being in your own energy are available to each one of us, but we need to claim them and own them. And so feel this pleasure of how good it feels to be through and beyond and on top of all of the problems that you thought you were, that you thought you had, all of the issues, all of the blockages that were, whether it was in your chest, in your heart, in your throat area, in your solar plexus, in your base chakra, wherever you feel that you're still holding back, that you're holding those blockages. Allow all of these energies that we have at our disposal, that the universe is sending us. let those energies flow through there. Let it allow to release. Let it allow it, let it allow it to release. Let it go, let it flow. Let it show you the beautiful message that it has for you, that it was holding it for you for such a long time. That what it was holding, you were afraid of it and you didn't want to hear and you weren't able to hear before, but it was holding a beautiful message, a heartfelt message for you, or perhaps pictures or a story of who you were, of what you survived, of what you overcame. Let it speak to you in this way and allow it, befriend it, allow it to come into your heart and through your heart and let it go into its freedom and allow your own presence to claim this. Claim it now. There's no other time, better time. You might as well claim it now. How does it feel when you just trust yourself implicitly, explicitly, in any way? How does it feel? That feeling, how good it feels when you keep discovering new things about yourself, about your life, new insights, those wonderful aha moments, that peace that you've thought that you wished for, and now you found it in yourself. That beautiful, quiet, all-pervasive pleasure that seems to extend time and extend space around you. For when you feel in that all is so good in my world, always, how good that feels, and how in simplicity, and how natural, and how pleasurable, and how much you are in that moment, in those moments, in love with yourself, in love with your world, in love with the wisdom of you who brought yourself here, with the wisdom of your journey, and how it feels when you feel gratitude towards yourself and you allow your soul, your presence to fill you with forgiveness for all of the things that you still perhaps held on to, that you did wrong, or that there was something wrong about you, or some events, or perhaps some things that you did or you feel that you've done wrong to others. And feel how those things are part of a human journey. And some of the things that you've taken on the responsibility, perhaps within your family, within your love life, within your wherever, that you've taken on other people's issues and then felt guilty or responsible for. Let that go and feel how it's releasing this forgiveness that the soul brings, this unconditional forgiveness. To some, this is new to experience. To all of us, it is new when we start playing in the reality of the presence of our soul, when we really feel it, acknowledge it, hear its whispers, we start to experience the reality of what these words actually mean. They're no longer words. The relief when we feel forgiven, the relief when we can feel the forgiveness like a balm seeping through each of our cells, and how the body relaxes in that space. And you didn't even know before the tightnesses that your body held until you actually accept and own and allow that forgiveness, the unconditional forgiveness, to flow through you. And you realize how you are in service, in loving service to your soul. and that none that what you judged yourself, what you thought were wrongs as to who you are and who you were as a human being are actually wrong. You're just part of the story. And sometimes these are the hard ones to let go of, because in some ways, there can be a pleasure in holding on to judgments of ourselves, to guilt tripping of us. Because in the old days, before we knew this love of soul, the presence of soul, these are the kind of things we had to soothe us, to lift us up, to keep us sane, to keep us working however we could, working in a world the way it is, in the best way that we could, you know. And so we feel those spaces soften and fill with forgiveness and the self-love that also the soul brings, this unconditional acceptance. And it is in the relationship you to you that you learn the true nature and true um, meaning and true feelings of love. And you realize that the love that you knew as a separate human being, you had this feeling deep down about love, but a lot of it was actually a very unwell love. You didn't know love at all in this way because it was always conditioned. It was always perhaps mixed with pain. It was always, perhaps we fell in love with person that didn't love us back, the unavailable person, because the other person also didn't know how to feel this love, because unless a person has a certain connection with the greater being, with a presence, and it doesn't have to be a spiritual person. Some people just have that already naturally, and perhaps if they didn't have a too difficult journey, they wouldn't have to suppress or, learn about lovelessness or all those kind of things. But for us that we're working with these things consciously, for many of us, the journey to here was filled with quite a lot of, shadow work, because we've kind of picked this life as the last life in the line of disconnected living, and so we've had to look at all the shadow, all the things that we didn't want to look at about ourselves. And within that journey, also, it can sometimes be easy to forget just what magical creatures we are, because then even that work can become a habit until one day you wake up and you realize, wow, actually, I'm done with that part. So for some, this is the time for you when you realize, well, I've done so much work, and I know things will keep slowly maybe come to me to integrate, and yet the bulk of it is done. And I can let go, and I can also let go of the image of who I am of myself. Perhaps this image that you are awakening. Perhaps for some of us today in this space that we've created, it is time to take on the next identification, the next chapter in the book of your life, which has perhaps a different image of yourself. So this year really gives people a chance to pick the bricks, the mortar, the things out of which you want to build your next story, your story that you are allowing to come to you and unfold through you. And you're picking all the bits and pieces now that you are familiar as never before, whatever it is for each one of us. We are now familiar with who you are much more than ever before. And so the choice within that space, within the space of feeling, within the space of owning our own feelings, our own truths, our own sovereignty, our own maturity, wisdom, we can pick and choose what you're going to build your life on, out of which foundations, out of what flavors is your life going to be about. Your next chapter of your story is going to be about. Perhaps, that chapter where you identify yourself as someone who is going through awakening and healing and all of that has come mainly to a completion. And as I mentioned at the beginning, certain things are always part of a creator's toolbox, like transformations, because you're always being dynamic, you're always expanding. So you're always wanting to expand and change your identities and what you want to be and what you want to feel and what you want to participate in and integrate and stuff. So you have to keep transforming all of these energies. Like for example, like a big change would be, let's say, if you choose to move from one location to another, you transform who you were and you take on this new being who lives in a different place. You see, so we do that all the time. And yet, through that intense awakening and intense healing process, and that intense getting to know your soul, which is beautiful and also quite challenging, because you see things as they are, and you have to really it's raw and full on, but it's also raw and full on in beautiful things. It comes as a whole package. It's not just one thing. And so perhaps that is finished for you. Perhaps you are now entering a new, a different kind of chapter. And that's what it feels like to me today and in the last few days and in the last few months. It's been about being what we choose in this way. So we're choosing the new earth. For some people, we say 5D, fifth dimensional, or the new earth, the new identity, whatever that you express it, but feel, when you get these things, when the soul speaks to you, when it communicates to you, these packages of information, if you will, have a particular feeling. They have particular flavors. When you first glimpse them, they don't have the details, but they carry within them everything, all the questions, all the answers, the experiences. And so if you choose that, then you allow this to come closer into your own being, and then you own it. And then it starts unfolding. And so if you're unfolding, you're owning this being who you are, this potential that was something that was a potential, but now you're claiming it, that you are now feeling worthy, peaceful, self-loving. All of these things that come to you as to what you want to feel, they have this flavor, they have a feeling, and they come to you as an offering from your soul. And you claim them and you own them. And then you start to let this permeate, of course, your body, because your body, your physical body, is fully aware of this. It knows how to deal with it. And it will straight away, as you claim something, go on to changing itself to fit with this new image, with this new truth, with you owning it. And so then that unfoldment starts happening, and you all of a sudden notice new things that fit with this new image or this identity or this new chapter, however you want to refer to it. And then you allow these flavors to spill into your life. And then the opportunities come, perhaps new people, perhaps new adventures, new choices, new questions, and you start noticing things in a different way, and you start seeing the world in a different way to fit with this new image that you now choose, with this new chapter that you now choose. And so, if each one of us has been choosing the new earth for very many years, and here it is, here it is. It is here available, but must be claimed. And this new earth, which lives inside of you, which you represent, which you have to own and claim, and then be, and let it unfold. And this new earth does demand the certainty of things, that meaning that the doubt, the old doubt, or the old self-depreciation of self, all of these putting down of self, being cruel to oneself, having these inner battles and all of that, these things don't exist in this new you, in this new world, in this new earth, in the 5D earth. They don't exist. And so if there are still parts of this within you, let these energies cleanse them, let them permeate, let them deepen every part of you. Let it make the spaces between inside of yourself bigger, expansive, so that you can notice things and see them, and so that there is space for the new to come, to manifest itself, to feel, so you can feel all these different things that are there to be felt. Like in those spaces that were tight, there was no room to move, and yet you can now feel how easy it is to move, how easy it is to flow. And these are the things of a mastery, things of magic, things of like the highest knowingness, knowledge, that you can actually do this within yourself, consciously, with awareness, with direction, that you can change these things. These are what we're here for on earth, to master these things, to master energies, to get to know yourself on your inner world, how you work, how you allow things to unfold, how you allow things to blossom, how you allow things to grow, things that you choose, things that matter to you, things that are your truth, and this is so different than the old world. How we were in the old world, when none of these things were allowed, when these things were prohibited. This kind of freedom was prohibited, and the world and society was and is set up to continually not allow this kind of freedom to continue. There's so many taboos about the inner world, about what you can feel, how you can feel it, how you arrange yourself. There is so much room to move. There is so much freedom with this, you know, and you can play with this, and you can practice this, because this is now um, your job, your work, or your life, really, in this way. That's how you create, you manifest, you cook, you try out, you trial, you test this and test that, and feel, how does it feel? Do I like this? Not that much. You move on, and you're not caught in any of those kind of things that stop this process, which were like, "Oh, maybe I'm not worthy. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe this is not for me, it's for someone else. Maybe, this is just a fantasy." All of those kind of things, whatever it is that kind of stops you Is now time to just set it aside, let it go, just like the 2024 is gone. Let that stay in that space. And you create this space in this new year, 2025, for all these things to unfold, for your truth to come, to be known to you more and more, for words that used to just mean a word to become real and living experiences within you, to know things like, you know, love, what the self-love, the nuances, the flavors, the taste, the deliciousness of continually falling in love with yourself in this way, to continually like breathe out and breathe in. And so also the different experiences with you and your soul, like how, for a long time, it feels that there's two of you. There is the human and there is the soul. And for for explanation's sake, I use this, and yet, there comes a time where they can kind of become one, this oneness of self. And then you realize, oh my God, I am the soul. It's no more that separation. And then for the experience and the joy again, you kind of come back separate, not separate, but apart, so that you can have this conversation, you can have the interaction, you can be your inner teacher and the student, and the wise magi and the student, and all of these different parts. This is the joy of your oneness, your soulness, your beingness, to play in this, and as an old human, it was not allowed to be this joyful. It was not allowed to truly fall in love with yourself. It was not allowed to have high standards of how you want to be treated, you know, and stuff like that. So this is the year to experience this. This is the year of to feel and explore with other people what these kind of things now, how these things can reflect back or not, depending on where you are with your journey and your truth and your choices and what you're up to with your soul, what you're doing, whether you're individualizing, then you need a lot of time for yourself, or whether you're coming back into the society for a time or for however long that you want to start participating. You're on your own schedule, and this too is incredibly freeing when you realize, that you don't have to, you're not in a hurry. You don't have to do anything anymore in this way that you don't want to. You don't have to put up from anybody anything anymore that you don't want to, that is not reflecting of self-love. You can say no, you can walk, you can leave, you can ask them, the other person to leave. But because you are now in this space, or you can be, when you claim it, that you are this uncompromisingly you, this deliciously you, this wonderfully you. And you keep then unfolding from that space. And this today, we are claiming this, that we are no longer being stuck in all these others' ideas of what things are true, who we are, who we can be, who we should be, all of those things. Now we are at truth. Now we are in love with ourselves. Now we are just in simplicity okay with ourselves, in respect, in honor of our own self, for being enough, more than enough, for being this precious, sacred, part of your soul, this sacred part that is human, that is experiencing this brilliant life, this brilliant experience on being on Earth, on this planet that is swirling and twirling around the sun within the solar system that is twirling around the Milky Way. You know, when you really think about it, it's a bizarre situation. When you really look at it and think about it, it becomes quite humorous and quite cute. And you think, oh my God, what kind of a soul thought about something like this? An existence where I'm this tiny human on this tiny planet that is swirling at millions and millions of miles around galaxy within the galaxy that is swirling around the universe. I mean, who would have thought? Who came up with that, truly? And so, this too, the humor, this lightness of being, is part of the new earth, in which this too is not allowed. We all know groups of people, or particularly individual, but these kind of things are just not allowed to express this kind of joy, this kind of frivolity. For many of us, we've had to be very serious throughout our lives. And so, and when we've been integrating, when we've been walking through that valley of death, there was a lot of quite not humorous things in there. And so now it is time to also claim that, if you wish, this incredible lightness of being. This too can be your truth in your own way, if you wish. And so these energies of this new year are quite wonderful. But, the intensities will keep going. The humanity will keep going through the dramas and all sorts of things. And so it is very, very helpful to learn even more how to serve the waves, how to flow with them. And that too is you get used to by being in touch with nature, with what is happening. Like, so that, there was a time where, because I was studying photography, it was such a great thing for me in this way, because it helped me, or it inspired me to become familiar in a new way, in the next level way, with what is happening around. Like, I used to, be too busy with job and with work and stuff. I didn't know how the moon moves. I didn't know things like where in the sky the moon there is or comes out from the sea, in which location when it's a full moon, or where to look for new moon, or how does the sun, what happens with the sun as the seasons progress, as the year progress, what happens with all these other planets. And these things are part of our world. They have an enormous influence on our body, on the all of the particles, the water levels, which we are made out of a lot of water. So the moon's movement has impact, just like the tides. We too are, the water particles in our bodies have huge, they feel all of these things. And so to come into this natural, my body rhythms and stuff was huge part of me familiarizing myself with life again, and for me, I didn't have, and still I don't, whatever my electronic devices, whichever ones have a GPS and things like that, they're switched off. I don't use those things. I don't use location, because I wanted to bring forth my own abilities to orient myself within my world. And my world is Earth. and all that has, to do with Earth. And so now I know things. Now I've seen and photographed the eclipses, when you get up in the middle of the night and watch. So I've watched now all these different phenomena, the meteors, the planets aligning, and watch them through those the word it escapes me now, a telescope at night. So I've become really familiar with that. I've also become familiar just hanging out in the middle of the night with stars and with that silence and that incredible expansiveness. And somehow, when you desire that, or it's part of your journey, somehow all of these things just happen, for anyone who, perhaps if you live in a big city, yeah, I advise that you experience these kind of things, because what happens is that you become really then in touch with your body, your soul, your presence, and there are certain things, the electronic devices can be a help to us, but they shouldn't take over things that we have to do for our own self, because there is, of course, part of humanity that is wanting that transhumanism future, which is to modify a human being electronically, with implanting chips and all of that kind of stuff. And yet we're doing it in a natural way, because we're becoming and have become modified humans. We're definitely not who we were 20 years ago, or 30, 40, the disconnected human. We're not that anymore. So we too have gone transhuman. We've modified ourselves. We've become modified by the presence of our own soul. And so, whatever that you can, practice these kind of things. Practice walking around, if you haven't already, without watch, without these things to to tell you what you're feeling, what your senses, what your inner knowingness can tell you. And it may feel a bit disoriented from the beginning, if you haven't done this before. But it's such a great way to really develop trust between the human and soul, because you'll find that when you follow your own guidance, it will guide you seamlessly around storms, around weather events. You'll find these streets and roads and places and spaces that you had no idea about, and all these creatures that share our earth, the wild creatures, that you start to understanding their language, and they will whisper to you and they will guide you to spaces that only they know, magical spaces. You kind of go down a certain path and you think, oh, this is not leading anywhere. And all of a sudden you come to this most beautiful, magical, energetic space, that you would never find on a GPS or anything like that. So, and you start to tap into, but also be so connected with life, with the song of life, with creatures, and you realize how different the idea is about, creatures, how free they are, how beautiful, how incredible they feel in their wildness, and how there is actually the order and honor and all sorts of things in the hearts of the wild creatures. And when they're no longer afraid of you because they recognize you as their kin, because you're no longer separated, they will show you things that you've never seen before, because before you've only seen them as they're running away from you. And now all of a sudden, when you become part of it, the creatures just go about their business, and their lives, are not hard in a way. They're 100%. Lives of creatures demands 100% of them, but they experience so much joy, so much peacefulness, so much of this well-being, of being well and right and in the right place at the right time. They don't think I should be somewhere else, They are where they are who they are, and you know, they accept you as you are and life as it is. And it's a quite a different experience to actually feel this and then to allow this to also be you, and and to experience this within yourself, because there is this wildness in each one of us that society has tried to domesticate. And it is right that parts are domesticated, but there should be in each one of us this wildness, because that's our feminine nature. It's the nature of chaos, it's the nature of creativity, it's the nature, it's the part where all this incredible creativity and passion come from. That's where they arise. And there's no end to this. When you tap it, when you finally are in touch with this, then it just continually flows, and the passion, and it's incredible to feel. And then you can't really relate anymore to people who feel dead on the inside. This is such a dimensions, centuries, planets away from you, because you can feel that passion that keeps flowing through you, and as you. And yeah, this is for me, this is living. And for each one, you felt these kind of things in yourself. And for each one of us, it's very unique and it's very different. And and yet it has the same we're similar flavors. So I invite you to keep playing in this space, explore it, claim it, and own it. And so I think we've come to the end. Yes, I looked at the time. You see, it's quite fascinating how, the messages, they come in completeness. I just have to, my mind just have to find words to explain all that flows through, and how perfectly, it normally is timed. There's a start, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there is the end. And this is how all of the things work when you actually tap into and shift your focus from dependency on tools that are not your soul, of your soul. Too much dependency of it. We use tools of technology and all of these things, but they don't make them your boss. Allow and practice your own natural abilities, because otherwise you will never find out all the things that you're capable of, that you can do. And when you keep discovering these things, these are those jewels that you continually feel, that you continually experience throughout your day. And it brings so much sparkling into your life, and also that you go continually on this journey of falling in love with yourself again and again, because you keep discovering how perfectly your life is made just for you, and how beautifully it all fits together, and how beautifully you are constructed to fit with your life, you know, and there's no better. I often say this: you as a human and you as a soul are a match made in heaven. And when you keep realizing this based on all these different experiences that you have throughout the day, throughout your week, throughout your life, throughout the night as well, let's not forget the in night, it's these kind of glimmers or realizations that's where you feel that, oh my gosh, I've gone out, I've experienced, and now I've come back again to realize, oh my gosh, I'm so perfectly made for me, for me, for me, for me, you know, and that is just this beautiful love of life and so much more. And so, dear friends, for those that are first time, I will allow 24 hours. Thank you very much for allowing about 24 hours for this video to be uploaded so you can watch. It takes a bit of time for me to edit. It's evening here, so I have to edit it and then upload to YouTube and then send to each one of you. And after these sessions, I'm often not capable of thinking technical things. So that's why I will do it tomorrow morning. I normally do it in the morning the next day. And so thank you very much for each one, for all your support, and Happy New Year. Thank you. Until next time.